So yeah, welcome to en-thuse, the en-thuse mini. It's been 18 months since we did something, and last time we did en-thuse, we had Rich Reising with us and his wife Michelle, who is over there hiding in the background. This is Rich hiding in the foreground, and it's great to have them back in the UK. So we thought, well, while they're here, let's do something with them again. So thanks for coming out. It's going to be good, I'm sure. Thanks to Mando for buying your drinks. Give them a big round of applause. And make sure you say thanks to Matt and Ian. Probably Matt more than Ian, because Ian didn't know a thing about it until I told him. But welcome, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce my good friend here, Mr. Rich Reising. So why don't you make him all feel welcome?
Go?
Yeah.
Am I good to go?
There we go.
Okay, great. All right. Well, thank you guys for allowing me to be here. This is kind of fun. We had a great time about 18 months ago, and it's been kind of a wild ride for us. So we've been sharing a bunch of new things and talking to Matt and staying in touch. And so anyway, if it's okay, I'll share some of those things with you tonight. Is that cool? All right, so I'm going to talk on two different sessions kind of tonight, just some of the things that have been going on inside my mind, and it's kind of crazy, I know, but we'll probably talk for about 30 or 45 minutes, and the first session here I wanted to do is just kind of what every business needs to know about marketing, and I think we oftentimes we don't realize just how maybe little we, in marketing in our own mind oftentimes is advertising. In other words, when you ask what the definition of marketing is, what is that really all about? And that's kind of been our heartstring. That's been our passion. How do we get the word out about effective marketing? And what we've done is we've come up with a number of principles. And so I'd just like to share them with you tonight. So if that's okay. And if you'll notice, too, we've written a book here on church marketing. And so in the States, we're very well known, mostly for a firm that helps churches grow. And I'm really scared to say United States and churches at the same time, because I can just imagine what you think about us. You know, for example, I live in Texas, which probably worsens the deal for all of you. Because every time, like, if there's a national video news channel filming, there's been a tornado in Texas, they always go to, like, no offense, but like the dumbest person in the entire city or in the entire state. That person has no teeth, right? And they've not showered for months, and they can't speak English properly, and then people go, aha, that's what a Texan is. And so I know what church television looks like. So I'm extremely fearful that you have that picture of what church is like in America. But let me just warn you, or let me calm your fears a little bit. It's not like that at all. For the most part, it's good people. It's good people trying to do good things. And so what we really did is we had a passion that started about 15 years ago. My wife, Michelle, and I were both in corporate marketing, and we loved what we were doing. We were very passionate. We were marketing nerds. You know, that's like when we're dating, we're driving down the highway and we're looking at billboards and we're going, do you think they, hit their target audience or not? Do you think they're effective? What do you think about their font choice? Do you think the colors they used were, that's just how nerdy we are about marketing, and we did it all the time. But then finally we realized, what if we utilized these powers, so to speak, that we thought we had at the time? Of course, we were geniuses back then. What if we utilize these tools to help churches? Because to be really honest, they've lost all of their relevance. And you might think that they have here in the UK, but they have in the States for a large part as well, although we're a little bit more church. We thought, you know what, they've lost their way, and some of the marketing principles that we were utilizing on a daily basis would be very, very helpful in effectively reaching them. So what we ended up doing is writing on church marketing and helping churches be able to grow effectively. And through the course of that, we've we've been able to help a lot of nice people, but it's really opened up our world. We get the opportunity to serve church now. We serve corporate. We kind of serve a wide gamut. So my first point I kind of wanted to make as it relates to marketing is this. And so you might want to take some notes. We'll have some fun tonight, but you might want to take some notes on some of the things on this. But marketing, my first point is this, and that marketing is not what you think it is. Okay? Marketing is not what you think it is. I remember when I told my mother-in-law we were going to start a marketing firm, she said, "A marketing firm? I hate it when those people call me at night." And you just realize that's where people's perspective was about marketing. And the reality of the deal is that marketing starts at the very core of who a person is. It's really less about how we put on a really nice suit. You know, a lot of times we think marketing is advertising. We think it's about how we dress up in order to attract, right? If you have a retail business and you want people to come into your store, you think about, well, what do we need to show them, right? What are the things that we need to put on the outside of our store in order to draw them in? And the reality is that it's not just the clothes we wear, it's the things that we do to win a date in the first place. A lot of times we're getting all dressed up for the prom. Do you have proms over here? What do you call them over here? The ball. You get all dressed up for the ball, and you realize you've never courted a date. And recognizing that a lot of times what we do and what we think of marketing is literally it's just the external stuff, and we have no connection with our clients. And we don't really know how to we don't really know what their true needs are, and we've never learned to establish a deeper connection with them. So all of a sudden, all we really are is we're a box on the shelf to them. And when you're a box on the shelf to them, you'll realize that your clients are very fleeting, because they'll see a prettier box at a cheaper price, and they'll go, "Ooh, I need to do this." Right? And so when you develop a relationship with a client that's deeper than just that box, you're dealing with the deeper levels of marketing. So when I said marketing isn't what you think it is, this is the definition that we've given to marketing. I would just challenge you, this is something you might want to write down, because I want you to think about how it affects everything you do from a marketing perspective. And that's just really simple as this. Marketing is the management of perception. Marketing is the management of perception, right? It's everything you do that conveys the sense of who you are with those people that you're trying to reach. It's everything you do. All right, so if you are a hotel, whether or not you cut the grass is marketing, right? Whether or not you return phone calls in a timely manner to your clients is marketing. The tone that you communicate to your clients is marketing. The way you send an invoice is marketing. The way you bill is marketing. I mean, honestly, if I send you a bill before I've done the work for you and say I need to get this much payment up front, and I won't start the work until you've done it, sometimes that's a great way to protect yourself, but sometimes it's a great way of saying, I don't trust you to your client. Y'all with me? So marketing is a management of perception. And really, I tend to get simple definitions for things. Simply this. If marketing is management of perception, I'll give a simple definition of management. Management is just this. It's knowing where you are, knowing where you need to be, and making adjustments along the way. That's a simple definition for management. Knowing where you're at, knowing where you need to go, and making adjustments along the way. So if you've got a good manager in your office, I've got a good manager in my office, that person knows exactly where we are today, knows exactly where we need to be tomorrow, and is making adjustments to make sure that we get where we need to go. That's a good manager. So if I combine these two definitions, marketing being the management of perception, that means I know exactly how people perceive me today. How many of you know how your clients perceive you? It's often an enigma. How do I know what they think about me? But marketing is knowing what they think about you. All right, knowing how you want them to think about you, what brand do you want to see them, that you want them to see you as, and what do you need to do for them to see you as the brand that you want them to see you as? What do we need to do to make adjustments along the way? If you're a coffee house, are you the neighborhood coffee house, right? Or are you the big conglomerate coffee house, right? Are you the one with poor service? Are you the one that they make it really difficult to use their restroom? Right? Are you the one that charges them too much for refills? Because no matter what it is, whatever sticks in their craw, boy, that's a very Texas way to say it. Sticks in their craw, whatever gets under their skin, right? Whatever annoys them, about you often becomes known as your brand. How many of you have a restaurant that you just cannot stand because the service is always bad? Right. So in your mind, their brand, they can spend all the time, money, and effort, right, on branding. They could say, oh, we need to redo our logo, right? We need to redo all of our promotional materials. And at the end of the day, they will be the annoying place that always has bad service. And so you understand that marketing is dealing with the deeper level. Because if we get all the things pretty, it's kind of, I would use this analogy. I'm driving down the street, and it's very late at night. I'm driving down this, or actually even better, a female driving down the street very late at night, okay? And she's running out of gas, and she's on a long stretch of highway. And there's a gas station on the right-hand side, and there's a gas station on the left-hand side. Well, which one is she going to go to? And some people say, well, what's the cheaper gas? Right? Or what's the brand she knows the best? If it's late at night and she's all alone and she's driving down this long stretch of highway, she's going to go to the gas station with better lighting. Because her true need is safety. Right? And I can just imagine that other company spending all of their money redoing all of their branding, cleaning their bathrooms and having them redone. Oh, no one's coming in here at night. Oh, we need to run a sale on all of our drinks, and we need to take our gas down. And the reality is they've totally missed it because it was a lighting issue. How do we get to understand our clients' need at a much deeper level? So, marketing is everything you do that forms the perception of who you are and those that you're trying to reach. And the reality is every organization is marketing, and whether you realize it or not. If you guys do a great work, like let's just say, give me a service that you might perform. Anyone? Design firm. I talked to a designer earlier. If you're a great design firm and you're you're a very talented designer, and you have a unique given gift for being able to translate the story of a client into those that you're trying to reach and draw, if that's a unique gift that you have, but nobody knows about it, how well are you managing perception? You know what I'm saying? You can't effectively be communicating. So every touch point that you have, and really the biggest challenge for us as designers is that like we said earlier, I was talking to Ian earlier, the cobbler's children have no shoes, right? We do the lousiest job of communicating ourselves. Why? Because we have to do our clients' work because they're paying the bills. And so oftentimes that means that the people that are being drawn in as clients to us, they're lousy clients. Because only a lousy client would be attracted to a lousy website. And so you get really bad clients that no one else wants. Because it's simply because you didn't take time to attract the right kind of client. And sometimes have you ever had a bad client? I've had the kind of clients that, I just want to end it, like in my own life, because of how stupid this client is. And they ruin our life. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. But anyway, you've had bad clients that have ruined your life, and what it is they're not prepared to work with you. They're not ready, and the reality is if they're not ready and you're not ready, you're in a lot of trouble. Because it's kind of like two very emotionally needy people going into what will become a very nasty codependent relationship. Anyway, moving right along. Okay. The next thing we do is this. Everything we do speaks. Everything you do speaks. Everything you do speaks. The clothes you wear, what you wear to a client meeting, the things you communicate on your website, they speak louder than you possibly can realize. Everything you do speaks. And honestly, when we work with churches, they were completely offended with this. We would say, look, everything you do as a church speaks. And they would go, how dare you? And we would say, hey, this wasn't our idea. As a matter of fact, we would pull out the Bible and we would say, in 1 Samuel 16:7, this is what it says. It says, for God looks on the heart and man looks on the outside. So it says, man looks on the outside and God looks on the heart. I'm so grateful. God looks on our heart. But guess where man looks? Man looks on the outside. Everything you do speaks. Everything you do speaks. So I want to give you a little bit of a thought on this. Let's just say you're a hotel, and I'm just trying to give you different things so I can get you thinking in different ways. Let's say you're a hotel, but you have no signage. Right? You have very poor signage. You don't know where. Have you ever been to that place? And you don't know where to enter. You don't know where the lobby's at. You don't know where the parking is. What's that say? It says, you know what? This place is built for people that already know their way around, and they really don't care anything about you. In other words, signage literally ascribes value on the people that you're trying to reach. And in America, it was a phenomenon. When Starbucks came in and started popping up on every street corner, and literally what used to happen is you would buy coffee from, and again, I'm telling you a little bit out of your context here, but this is our context. You would buy coffee for 50 cents, which is what, 30 pence? Yeah. Okay? You would buy it for 30 pence at a gas station. That's what coffee was in America. Okay? And then all of a sudden, Starbucks came, and for roughly 2 or 3 pounds, they would sell you the same cup of coffee you'd buy at a gas station. And people were driving out of their way to go meet at Starbucks. It was just the most bizarre phenomenon. Why would you go spend more? And you start to realize, if you've ever, if I give you a styrofoam cup and I sell it to you in nasty, grocery store lighting, right? I put a styrofoam cup on the counter for you. I'm not going to pay 2 pounds, 3 pounds for a cup of coffee. I'm not going to do it. But you know what? When I create nice decor, when I put up very attractive signage, when all of a sudden I paint the place and I decorate the place, and what I'm doing is I'm ascribing value on everyone that comes in. So when those people walk in the door, all of a sudden they're willing to pay that much more. They're going, oh man, I'm glad to pay it. And they pay it like absolute addicts. And it created a completely different culture. I mean, in the U.S., there was not even a coffee shop hardly existed to the thousands and thousands and thousands of coffee shops and coffee addicts that they've created. And they literally created it because they ascribed value on their client. And it's funny, I have a friend of mine, a Japanese friend, he's worth probably $300 to $500 million. And he doesn't speak any English. He translates everything through his daughter. And he just said, he kind of talks like Confucius, but he would always talk to his daughter, to me, and say, hey, Richard, secret to business. And I'm like, yeah. He says, this win-win. Secret to business, win-win. I'm like, okay. He's like, secret to business, win-win. Always let your client win first. And it's amazing. We go into, as a consulting firm, we go into a client's meeting now, and they're looking at 3 or 4 other firms, and the other firm comes up, and they're doing a song and dance going, look at what we did for somebody else. And they show them some pretty stuff that they did, and they show them some results, and they get all excited about it. And then they say, if you'd like to work with us, it's going to cost you $100,000 or something like that. And the client's like, okay. And then they look at the next one, and the next one does the same song and dance. And we go in, and we're like, tell us where you're at. We don't even bring our portfolio. Tell us where you're at. Where are you having problems? And all of a sudden, we spend an hour and a half with them, helping them solve their problems and helping them provide solutions for them. And they're like, well, how much does this cost? And we're like, you know what? Let's meet again, and let's talk a little bit more about what the scope of the work is going to be. And anyway, we're 2 or 3 meetings down the road. They aren't even talking to those guys anymore. What we did is we went in and just won the business because we provided them value. We let them win first. Instead of trying to tout how awesome we are, we just got into the heart. We just got down and found out what their needs are and started to try and meet those needs. We didn't go in as rock stars trying to convince them how great we are. We just went in as people that wanted to help. And let me just tell you, if you work in corporate America, you need help. Right? You just need you're dealing with stress, you're dealing with animosity in the workplace, you're dealing with people that are trying to step on top of you. and at the end of the day, you go home completely stressed, you need someone that really is an advocate. Someone who really comes in and has no agenda except how to make you look good and make your department win. And if you find that person, you're gonna cling to them with everything that you have. And you know what? That doesn't sound like marketing at all, does it? But I'll tell you what, that's genius marketing. It's understanding the deep-rooted needs inside of what they really have and helping them serve that need instead of just, you know what, you can either serve the perceived need. They have a perceived need. Oh, I need someone to handle shipping. Or you can make a need perceived. You could come in there and you could go, what if you had someone to take all of this off your hands and you didn't have to think about it, who would hold themselves accountable and everybody else accountable to the whole thing, and would provide you with a software layer where you could just get insight into how all of the infrastructure is done. How would you like that? I've never even thought of that before. That would be a dream come true. What if we provided that for you? And then all of a sudden you've got all their shipping business and you've provided them such a value add. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, everything you do speaks. So I said no signage. What about this? Broken links on your website. What's that say? It says these guys are hacks, right? Or they don't have the resources to keep it up to date. How about inconsistent artwork between mediums? You've got a brochure that you bring to the meeting and you're like, oh, here's our brochure. And it doesn't look anything like the website they saw, right? And it doesn't look anything like your letterhead. This is poor branding. What's that say about you as a company? Anyone? You're making it as you go along, right? You don't know who you are. You've never done the due diligence. You've never done the heavy work. You know, we have this saying in our office that says, think strategically, act simply. If you'll take the time to think strategically, then you can walk away and just execute. You do all the heavy lifting up front, then you just walk away and execute. Most of us never think strategically, and so what we do is we think simply, and we walk away and act unstrategically. Because we don't ever want to give the time that it takes to be in those long, stinking meetings where we hammer it out and fight it out. And the funniest thing in the world, we work with churches, but we are violent. I mean, we go into these meetings with these clients, and we are like throwing down with them. It's so funny because we'll get young people, young interns come in and work for our team and what have you. And I'll never forget, we were in a meeting, and we have this saying in our office that says, I don't have to be right, but it has to be right. Okay? I don't have to be right, but it has to be right. So build a case. Now, here's the deal. If you think it should be done a different way, build a case. But here's the deal. I've also built a case too, so you better bring it. Okay? So they do, and we bring it, and we throw down. And we had this young intern that literally walked out of the meeting crying, going, everyone's so mean. And we were all like, hey, where are we going to go have lunch? Because we're like the best of friends. And the reality is that sparks fly when you're trying to get it right. And sometimes anyway, I'm kind of going off track. But y'all with me so far? Yeah. All right. Okay. So think strategically, act simply. The converse of that is if you think simply, you'll never act strategically. You've got to do the heavy lifting up front. So that's what you have to do. You have to do the heavy lifting up front, and you have to get on top of your brand. What do we really need to convey? How should we convey that in all of our mediums? A lot of times, when I see someone who has a design that doesn't match, this is the story it tells. This is a story of all the different freelance graphic designers they've burnt out, right? And those of us that have been, look, if you're a designer and someone comes to you and none of their collateral has any consistency, run in terror, because you're the next victim. They're going to beat you to death, and they're going to force you to beg for more, until finally you just end up having to cut ties, and then they go start something else with someone completely different. Anyway. Or, what does this say? A website that looks like it was done in the late 90s. What's that say about you?
dated.
Yeah, you're dated, right? Here's the deal. And this works in literally whatever you look like on the outside, that's your high watermark. Okay, in other words, it's funny, I'll see couples that dated, and let's say they dated and they got married in the mid-'80s. They still look like that today. They still have the same haircut. They still wear the same clothes. Why is that? That's the moment they felt the most attractive. That was their high watermark. You with me? And when you built that last website you built 15 years ago, that was your high watermark. And if I see that, what I call historic contemporary, right? Which is something that was contemporary, but you're like, I remember when that was popular, but it's no longer popular. You know, what you're seeing there is you're saying that's when they had a high watermark. Does that make sense? All right. I learned this probably the best. And I was when I was my last year of high school, my first year of university, I cleaned offices at night. I was kind of a night owl, and I had a friend of mine who owned an office cleaning business, so I cleaned offices with him. And I was the best. I was absolutely the best. No one could out-clean me. I was absolutely the best. It's funny, I never cleaned my room as a kid, but I was really the best. And here's the main reason. Because other people, they'd go into the stall. Is that the stall? And they'd go into the restroom stall and they'd wipe the toilet seat down. They'd wipe the handle down and they'd walk out. Okay? But I was so much better than all of them. I was so much better. Because here's what I do. I'd walk in and I'd wipe the toilet seat down. I'd wipe the handle down. And then I would just sit down. And then I'd start wiping. Because I figured it's probably most important how it looks from this perspective. Right? And I just challenge you, some of you have to go back to your businesses and look from an outsider's perspective again. You've gotten too familiar with what you do. You've forgotten what you look like with fresh eyes. If you were one of your clients who doesn't, or prospects that doesn't know you, and you could look at your competitors' websites, would you hire you, or would you look you completely over? And gaining the insight and the eyesight of your client is the critical factor in marketing. If you can't think through their eyes, and here's the challenge, it's so difficult because you're inside the machine. It's so difficult to gain a perspective from being on the outside. And honestly, you might have to role play. You might have to get up, go to a different place for breakfast that morning. Get up, go onto your laptop and say, I work for X company. I'm going to browse for a company to hire. If you're a B2B, if you do business to business sales, I got to browse for a company to hire. And would you hire you? Because everything you do speaks. And really, when it comes to website design, I'm sorry if I'm going to kind of spoil the secrets here, but it's all about landscape. It's, location, location, location. Well, those of us that write and speak and think English, we all know that we read from the top left down to the bottom right. And now, again, there's some studies here that kind of will throw some of this in question, but for the most part, this is still human nature. So whatever you put along the road from this right here is your most important message. What are you telling them is your most important message? Because if your most important message is right there, they didn't even see it. They didn't even read it. It's lost. These are the two worst. Those spots are no man's land. What you show them right here is your most important thing. And so if you're one of those businesses that you do 19 different things, all you do is you create confusion for them, and the first one they see matches their need or doesn't match their need. It's like my stupid friend. I'm sorry, I don't mean to call him stupid. My silly friend that, 10 years ago, I used to be that guy. Maybe it was 15. I used to be that guy you'd call and ask tech stuff to. Hey, what's the thing? I need to buy this, and he was like, I need to buy a scanner. And he had one of those large format printers. I said, he said, which one should I buy? I go, buy this one. All right, go to the store, buy this one. This is the best scanner, buy it. A week later, I call him, and he goes, I went to the store, but I bought a different one. And I'm like, why did you buy a different one? He said, well, I saw the one you talked about, but for only $100 more, I was able to buy one that said perfect for large printing. So I bought it. And I'm like, you idiot. It had worse specs for printing large than the other one did, but it did one thing that the other one didn't do. Put on the box, perfect for large format printing. What one story are you telling them? Because if you think, no, it's on there because you've got 14 different things that you're communicating, you've lost it. What's the one thing you're telling them? One of the things we do in our office is what's kind of one of our favorite things, and that is when we bring on a new employee for the first 3 weeks that we're there, we go pick us apart. Pick us apart. Like literally rip us completely apart. Tell us not so much on the internals, but like literally go to our website and rip us apart. And the main reason we do that is because they're never going to have as fresh of eyes as they were in their first couple of weeks. And most of us don't want to do that because we don't want to have to, but we've kind of built a culture around build a case, right? We built a culture around people in our office that know how to defend, how to do it right. So if you got some young person, they're like, well, I think we should do that. We're like, well, let me tell you why we're doing what we're doing. But sometimes you're like, wow, I never thought about what you said, but you're absolutely right. We are conveying that message. And at the end of the day, that's our whole job in marketing, is trying to deal with that need that someone has and being able to say the right thing at the very right time. So next is this connectivity. Let's see if I didn't say that. Connectivity is the foundation for growth, right? When we work with organizations, we kind of draw a cone that looks like this. And right here, the first thing that we do, we call this connectivity, we call this brand, and we call this promotion. When we meet with a client, they want to talk about this. They want to talk about promotion because it's sexy. When are you going to design all our new pretty stuff and we get to, find out all of our ROI? Let's deal with promotion, right? Or they'll say, hell, let's deal with brand. But here's the deal. You win it or you lose it in connectivity. And connectivity has two components. One, repeatability and referability. Are you repeatable? Meaning if someone tries you once, will they try you again? Are you repeatable? And are you referable? It's kind of like this. If I owned let's say I owned a pizza place, brand new pizza place. I opened it up on a corner, and right across from me was this large leasing complex or apartments or whatever, what you call them. And apartments, you call them apartments here?
Yeah.
Okay. And so this large apartment complex, there's 1,000 people that live in that complex right across the street from us. So what we did is we put door hangers on every single door, and it says, buy one, get one free pizza. So we put 1,000 door hangers up, and we got 500 people to come in and check us out. All right, so 500 people out of 1,000 came in, tried our pizza, enjoyed it or whatever, and 6 months later, only 20 of them had come back. Do I have an advertising problem? I have a pizza problem. You with me? And that's one of the challenges that we see, especially with small businesses, is that they keep trying to solve their poor connectivity. They keep going, oh, we can't keep a client. Oh, we should advertise for more. Do you see the absolute fallacy and the logic of that? We don't have enough clients. Oh, we need to advertise. No, you got to figure out how to make clients fall in love with you, how to make them addicted to you. It's all about repeatability and referability. And a lot of times when you run a small business, you're one silver bullet away from success. Do you know what is that terminology, silver bullet? Translate? Silver bullet meaning like a magic bullet. In other words, it's the thing that you do that everything's going to change once you do that. And if you've ever run a small business, you go, aha, no, we're doing pretty good, but if we could just hire the right person, it would solve all the problems. And that silver bullet is just an illusion. And you're always chasing it. And the reality is if you don't buckle down and figure out how to do your business well, and to the point that other people like it and they want to tell other people about it, you've lost. Okay, referability. Referability, when I refer someone to another business, let's say I worked with Matt and I said, you know what, his business is really awesome. I bought some great face soap from Matt. You really should buy your face soap from Matt. You know what, I put my reputation a little bit on the line, don't I? Just a little bit, right? If I'm buying face soap. Okay, but if I'm talking about working with a business-to-business firm who is going to do business in the 100,000 pounds and up, I really put my reputation on the line, don't I? Because face soap, you know what? If I mess that up, if you mess up that order, you know what? My friend probably will still like me. But if I recommend you to someone and you mess up 100,000 pound order, oh my gosh. You might lose a friend over this. Yeah. You put your reputation on the line. It's like co-signing on a loan. I mean, really, it is. It's saying, I believe if you hire that person, he's going to come through for you. And so I want to give you just a couple of habits. These are from, I'm part of this coaching network called the Strategic Coach. And they said, here's 4 habits of referability. This is just so brilliantly simple. Here are the 4 habits of referability. Like the chance that I could refer you as a result of your work with me, do these 4 things. Number 1, do what you say you're going to do. Number 2, show up on time. Number 3, finish what you start. And number 4, say please and thank you. But here's the deal. I don't care if you're hiring if a plumber came to your house to fix a leak, they showed up on time, or they did what they said they were going to do. They finished what they started, and they said please and thank you. Wouldn't you refer them to everybody you know who needs a plumber? So it's like you got to do 4 things right. But here's the challenge. Sometimes what we do is we undervaluate ourselves and we undersell the business. In other words, let's just say we know it's going to cost us $100,000 to do the business, but we sell it at 80 because we want the business so bad. So what happens is we sell it at 80, and about 2/3 of the way into the job, we need to go find another client because we're about to lose it. So you can't, and so we don't concentrate on ending well with them because you got to go win the next big fish to cover the loss you took on that client. Is this, you with me? Yeah. And at the end of the day, I kind of look at it as like this. I'm going to try and be brief. I know I'm running late on time here. Let's say this is the point where you break even. Okay? Your expenses match your sell price. This is the point, and again, this is kind of a sliding scale where you have, I'll call it extra profit. You have more than enough profit. Okay? If you price on this continuum, anywhere out here, if you price your stuff well beyond, like you have sick profit, at a certain point you become greedy. Right? Is that fair? You become greedy. And if you price anywhere between the break-even point and this point where you have extra profit, I'll call this fair. But most of us price over here. And I call this fear. When we run a small business, oftentimes we price out of fear instead out of fair. Why? Because we need the business so much, and so we lowball the thing to get the deal. And all we do is we set ourselves up to make promises that we can't fulfill. And then we leave a bad experience, and no one wants to do business with us again, and they don't want to refer us. The key to growth is all here. It's all in this connectivity. If you don't have connectivity right, spend all your money on connectivity. Spend all your money improving your processes. Spend all your money in improving what you're doing. Don't waste your money on brand right now, because brand is not your problem. But the moment you have incredible connectivity and people want to tell you about them, you put an attractive brand on top of that, and my goodness, they'll be talking about you in the streets. And then you start doing some promotion, adding in some outside help to be able to do this. Now you've got something that can't be stopped. So those 4 things, I'd say how to take it up a notch. What are some things you can do that are beyond those 4 to increase your referability? And I have 2 things, and that is, 1, out-communicate your client. Out-communicate your client. If your client calls you and says, when am I going to get that? Or what's the status of that? You've already lost. If your client, because what it is you've not done, it's your job to give them understanding to the process. It's your job to keep them informed. If they have to call you and ask where something is, that's just proof to them that you're behind. Okay. And the last thing is give them something unexpected, right? I mean, you think romance is just for relationships? I mean, give a client something unexpected. Give them a credit that they weren't expecting. I love doing that. We have this very large client that we've been doing a lot of work with. We just found out that we saved some money somewhere along the way, and we just gave them a credit. It was like a love letter. They're all weeping and crying on the other end. An unexpected credit. And it doesn't even have to be expensive. It can be just a handwritten note. A handwritten note. You know what? We really enjoy working with you. You've been fun. You're one of our favorite clients. We hope we have the opportunity to serve you again. That handwritten note, that's the most powerful thing. My friend, I told you about my multimillionaire Japanese friend who doesn't speak English. He writes 1,000 handwritten letters a year. He's never worked on a computer once in his life, and he doesn't have a phone. As a matter of fact, he kind of says it like this. He goes, I say to my assistant, make this phone call. She makes that phone call. So in other words, he doesn't even use a phone. All right? But he writes 1,000 handwritten letters a year. What is he doing? He's describing high value to the people that he's talking with. Okay? And here's the next thing. Connectivity is your credibility. If you lose this, you've lost your credibility. Your repeatability and your referability, which make up your connectivity, is ultimately your credibility. And I kind of have this formula related to credibility as it relates to inspiring change. Because I'm kind of one of those people that just sits around and thinks a lot, maybe too much. And one day I kind of started asking myself a question. Why do people change? Why do people who wear Puma decide, you know what, I'm going to start buying Adidas or Adidas, whatever, right? How do people change? What causes people to change? And I started kind of deducing this, and I came up with this formula. Credibility plus challenge equals inspiration to change. That's delta for change. Credibility plus challenge equals inspiration to change. Credibility plus challenge equals inspiration to change. What do you call someone who's not credible but challenges you? Annoying. Well said. What do you call someone who's not credible but they challenge you? How about a hypocrite? Right? Someone who is not credible but they challenge you is a hypocrite. But someone who's credible and they challenge you, it lights a fire inside of you. And this is what happened in the early 80s when this running shoe company decided they wanted to get into basketball in the United States. They said, you know what, we want to become the premier basketball shoe. The only problem is No one had ever bought their shoes for basketball. So they had this idea. What if we got a little bit of credibility? Is there anyone who could be considered a credible basketball player? Anyone? Is there any credible basketball player? And maybe it's not your sport, but certainly you might have heard of this guy named Michael Jordan. Slightly credible, right? He's like the greatest basketball player of all times. And here's the deal. When Michael Jordan tells you to just do it, I don't care if you're a housewife walking around the mall, you're going to wear Nikes on your feet. And that's what it did in the United States. Someone who was truly credible created challenge. And that inspired you to change. And the reality is, in the moment we lose our connectivity as a business, we lose our credibility. And when you lose your credibility, you can't go to the client and say to them, hey, you know what? Success is not getting paid. You said this, I've actually said this to a client. Success for me is not getting you to pay the bill I send you. Success for me is the letter you write me. That you write other prospects about what I did for you. That's success. And you know what? If I don't have credibility, I'm never getting that letter. I'm never getting that referral. I'm never getting that recommendation. Do what you say that you're going to do. Show up on time, right? Say please and thank you. Do our work. The greatest thing that we can do in marketing is just deliver on our own promises. Credibility plus challenge equals inspiration to change. I think it's universally true. Who's the most famous preacher you've ever heard of? Billy Graham? He's not necessarily everyone's cup of tea, but you know what? He's pure credibility. And he relentlessly challenges people. And what does he do? He inspires people to change. Nike tried to do the same thing again. Do you know 15 years ago, they didn't make a golf club? They didn't make one golf club 15 years ago. Maybe 20 years ago. But anyway, so what did they do? They looked for someone who had credibility. Tiger Woods. That went pretty well for most of the time. But you see how big of a hit it was? Their credibility just went away in a day. And that's the deal. Your credibility with your client can go away in a day. It can take years to establish, and you can lose it in a day. And the reality is when you have credibility, you can have the relationship with your client where you ask them, hey, just show me your cards. I'll tell you how to play the hand. I mean, you can get the kind of credibility with them where they just go, look, here's the deal. Our budget is this. And you're like, oh, well, here's what I would do with that budget. And you earn that right. But you earn that right by showing them that you value them so highly that you deliver on all of your promises. So, my goal for the time that we're going to spend hanging around right now, which I think we have a little bit of time, right? Do we?
Yeah.
A few minutes. All right, is to ask yourself this. As a company, where are you most credible? Where are you most repeatable and referable? What service do you provide that you know we do this so much better than everything else that at the end of the day, we know that's the thing that people are going to refer us about. And we just focus and challenge you. If you know that, that's probably your one thing. And you probably need to be doing that more than anything else. And then ask yourself this, where are you least credible? What are the areas, what are the things that you know every time you step out and try and do it, it turns into a joke? And then ask yourself this question, what do you do poorly that steals your credibility? Is it communication? Is it delivering on the product? Is it timing? Where have you broken down trust? Because you know what? If it's on timing, you can say, oh, it's going to be done on Thursday, and your client goes, pfft. And the reality is where there's a pfft, that's where a credibility has been lost. One of the questions that came up while we were on break was just how do you say no? In other words, how do you say no when you're financially not in a place where you can say no? So anyway, that's kind of have y'all ever been in that place?
Yeah.
Did you just notice I said y'all?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. We'll have that edited out of the tape. So anyway, saying no to the wrong client or the wrong price is really a challenge, especially when you're first starting out. When you're first starting out, you're resume building, right? A lot of times you're portfolio building. You're doing things just to be able to prove to people that you've done it. And to be honest, one of the biggest challenges is that we don't capitalize ourselves well enough to be able to start right. I mean, that's really the biggest challenge. We go, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to start doing this because it's my dream. Well, how much money do you have in savings? Nothing. And the challenge is that becomes the real problem, because if you're undercapitalized, if you don't have resources or you don't have parents who will cover you. Here's the funny thing: people that are pedigreed, that their parents train them and make sure they get into the right schools and that have just loads and loads of money. They oftentimes help a young person who's starting their own company tremendously, because it's amazing. I run into these people even in my own landscape that they have the ability to say no to people, and I always go, how do they say no? Oh yes, daddy's money. Right? That's how they can say no. And the reality is when you have enough when you have more than enough, you have the ability to say no. And the challenge is how do you stop saying no? Because when you're resume building, when you're first starting your company, and let's say you've done it without being capitalized, and you have to say yes, probably 80% of the clients that are going to come in, you're going to lose money on. So how do you live with that? And what really needs to happen is that you need to swing it from 80% you're losing money on to 20% you're losing money on. And you have to deliberately. I remember when we first started our business, I think we did all of our work for about $1 an hour. And it wasn't until after the first year, and I calculated all the time we spent, that I realized we only but what it was is we said, oh, we'll do this for $100. And it took us 100 hours. And we didn't know the scope of doing business. So literally in the first 5 years of us doing business as a firm, we doubled our prices like every single week. I mean, we just kept doubling our prices. And finally we got to the point, and it's not just where we're at price-wise, we're able to ask this question. When it concerns giving them an estimate or a proposal, we're able to ask this question: would you like us to give you a proposal based on what we believe is optimal? Or would you like for us to give you a proposal based on your budget? And so they'd say, well, what's optimal? I'd say, well, what's optimal, we think we would do this and we would do that. And let's say we would do 10 of these and 20 of these, whatever these are, service items or whatever that we would do. We would do all those things, and we would charge about, $25,000. Wow, we only have a $4,000 budget. So here's the deal. We've got to think on our feet and go, well, here's the deal. We could do a lot with $4,000. With $4,000, let me tell you what we could do for $4,000, and then we would come up with a plan that would serve their budget, but you know what? The scope's changed. And if you've got a client who wants you to do the optimal amount of work for their budget, run. Run. Because they'll kill you. At the end of the day, like for example, what we would do let's say on the design side, we would say, you know what, we're going to give you the optimal. We think we would give you, 5 concepts, and we would give you 4 rounds of revisions, or we would give you X hours. We would give you all this. This is optimal, right? Oh, but you only have you have 1/3 the budget. Okay. Here's what we'll do. We'll give you 2 concepts, and then they'd say, oh, and we'll give you 2 rounds of revisions, and then maybe Y hours. And the client would come back to us and say, whoa, wait a minute, no. This over here is $25,000. This over here is $5,000. They'd say, no, but we want all that. And we'd say, well, here's the deal. We'll write this up for you. If you can go find someone who will do this for that, good luck. But the reality is if they think they can do this for that, they're wrong, and they're going to get halfway through the project, and you're going to call us back. So it's helping them understand that they're going to get what they pay for. And you can work with their budget, but it's not going to be optimal. And you know what? Once you start creating the boundaries with that client, they're going to start respecting you. Because at the end of the day, you have to tell them, look, if you're asking me to lose money, you're asking me to not be in business in 6 months from now. You can't ask me to not be in business for 6 months from now. Y'all with me?
Yep.
Does this help? And maybe even say how you can communicate things in such a way. I'm serious. When we started going to the approach with a client, being able to say, well, what's the budget for the project? Well, we can either give you the number based on what we think is the optimal thing to do or based on what your budget is. And when we start taking that approach, we start winning many more of those bids. Because then they're seeing that we're able to think. I mean, ultimately, the job of a good salesperson is just to be a problem solver with people skills, right? It's to be able to solve the problem. We can go this way or we can go anywhere in between. Well, if your budget was just 10, we could do this. And at the end of the day, you're just asking them to invest into themselves. So anyway, what I wanted to talk about in this next session, if it's cool with you, is I want to talk about small business delusions. And I've had a lot of these. So I've been delusional most of my time that I've been. Well, look, anyone that leaves the corporate world to serve churches is slightly delusional. Granted, okay. But anyway, I'll wipe this. I'll wipe this off, and we'll get started with delusions. Kind of two sections to what I want to talk about in the next about 20 minutes, and that is small business delusions and whispers at the beach. The first one is small business delusions, and I'd say the number one small business delusion is if I can just. It's that sense of a silver bullet. It's the sense of a magic thing that's this magic wand that's going to solve the problem. If I can just land this client, everything is going to be okay. No, it's the beginning of the problem. You know, if I can just hire this right person. And oftentimes we have this person, they're mystical, right? They can do everything. They can slice, they can dice, they're brainiacs, and they can handle everything, right? And the reality is there's no such thing. There's no such thing as a magic bullet. There's no such thing as a silver bullet. And what I've learned is there are times that I've cried out on my knees, Lord, give me more business. Give me more business. And honestly, it was a challenge of my own faith. Is it going to happen? And what happens is most of the time that I've laid down on my knees and said, give me more business, it never came. And so finally I'd get fed up. I'd go down to my office when no one was there, and I'd start writing on a whiteboard, and I'd start writing down all the problems that I knew I was having, and I'd start writing down all the different ideas that I had and solving them, and I'd start working on the business, and I'd figure out how to make what we do better, and when I made what we did better, the business started to grow. It was the funniest thing. Every time I begged for more business, and nothing happened. But every time I went back and said, how do I take better care of the clients I have? Business grew. It was magical. And I'd say it all boils down to this. It boils down to stewardship. Stewardship. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that a word? That's good. Yeah. I'm working on the whole English thing. So, stewardship. And what stewardship is how well are you doing with what you have? What are you doing with what you have? So let's just say Matt here and Michelle back there, my wife, let's just say they both work for me. Neither one of them work for me. Okay? Michelle will, trust me, she doesn't work for me. Okay, so anyway, and Matt, I'd be so honored, but he'd squat me like a bug. So anyway, but let's just say Matt and Michelle work for me. If every time I gave Matt a project, and said, I need you to get this done. He fumbled it all over the place, never hit a deadline, always cost us more money, and caused the clients to just yell at us. However, every time I gave a project to Michelle, you like the way I'm doing this? Every time I gave a project to Michelle, she did it right, she did it under budget, and it was more profitable, and she always got it completely done on time. I just got a big project. Who am I giving it to? Michelle. You get it? It's stewardship. He who's faithful with that which is least becomes ruler over more. And some of you grew up in your own, working for a bigger company, and you started your own because you were that person. You were the person that that no matter what, you got it done. And then finally, after a while, you were just like, man, I'm leaving because, I'm being taken advantage of by the man, right? The man's got me down, right? So, and the reality, and a lot of times though, it was because you were faithful. And one of the things that when we first start doing, when we start getting our own gig, is we start getting these bizarre, stupid aspirations. I say stupid, unrealistic aspirations for what we're going to become. Okay, so let me just make sure I'm caught up on everything. Okay, yes, and that brings us to the second small business delusion, which is that we think that the goal is making it big. How many of you want a big company? How many of you want, tons of clients? How many of you want to make it big? And you have your picture for what big is. If you make jewelry, then you know the jewelry person that's made it big in your mind, and you're like, I want to be like that person, right? And so we spend all of our time trying to be like that person. And what does that jewelry person that's made it big have? Well, they have a marketing arm, and they do really great branding, and they have a killer website, and they make really cute jewelry. And then, let me just tell you what, if they're that big, they have tons of people doing all of that. So what happens is we try then to go, well, what if I design my own website? And what if I started pushing it on? And you start doing all the things that you didn't do that would cause you to be successful when you were successful in a smaller fish in a bigger pond. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you start trying to do everything yourself. And the whole thing is that you're trying to make it big. But here's the deal. If you try and make it big, it'll never be good enough. But if you constantly work on making it good, it will get bigger. If you're a jewelry designer, freaking go design jewelry. Do what you love. Do so much of it that it's flowing out of the doors in your house, and someone walks by and sees it on the sidewalk and says, I've got to have that. And it's the delusions that we have to have it big, that get us working on the things that aren't even really who we are. If you're an artist, make great art and be repeatable and referable. If you sell things online, create a great sales experience and make it repeatable and referable, right? The things related to connectivity and credibility. If you're a plumber, plumb well and be repeatable and referable. It's kind of the secret. You know how to get rich? Does anyone, you know how to get rich? There's a secret I shouldn't tell you. How to get rich? Make more than you spend. Yeah. That's the secret to wealth. Okay, I got another secret. How do you get really rich? Do it over a long period of time. I mean, there's really no shortcut. Do it well. Okay, the next thing is I just need the right person. I have been in this delusional place so many times, and I don't mean to make it sound like you don't need to hire people, and please don't, if you're in this place, don't make it sound like don't take it personally that I'm calling you delusional. I'm calling me delusional. I'm telling you stories from my journey. I remember the time I hired a guy that had never worked in my industry before, that I had met somewhere, that I thought I can trust him. Let me just tell you something about people you can trust. It doesn't always work out. Okay? In other words, a lot of it has to do with how good of a manager you are. If you're a bad manager, you will make bad employees loyal and chase good employees away. If you're a good manager, you will make good employees loyal and you'll chase bad employees away. If this whole restaurant's run with a really good management and they get a really bad wait person in here, they're not here very long. So just because someone's loyal to you doesn't mean they're worth their weight. As a matter of fact, if they're a bad employee that's loyal to you, all it is tell you about how bad of a manager you are. Stuff I've lived. Okay. So I just need the right person. And basically, I daydream a lot, so this is going to sound like, this is obvious. Like, obvious, okay. And what I've done is created in my mind a hierarchy of work. There's the doer, okay. There's the coordinator. And this isn't just like job position. In other words, if you're in marketing, you're a marketing coordinator, or you're a marketing director, or a marketing manager. This is more like job function. So doer, coordinator, manager, director, and visionary. And every successful company has these positions. And they're not so much positions like job titles, but they're functions within an organization. All right, this is going to sound silly. Okay, what's a doer do? They do the work. A doer does the work. A coordinator, their job, they house priorities. Right? In other words, there's a lot of jobs or a lot of product that gets moved around. A coordinator knows what needs to go out first and when. Okay? They house priorities. A manager, their job is to hold accountable. Think of a manager like a good coach. Right? If you're a good coach on a football team, you're grabbing that player and saying, what are you doing? You need to be doing this instead of that, and helping them and training them and getting them better. Right? A good manager holds them accountable. What were you doing? That was a stupid cross. What were you thinking when you... Okay. Director. That's pretty simple. They give direction. A director gives direction. In other words, they have a sense of where the company is, where the company is going, and they're also looking at the competitive landscape, and they're coming up with new ideas, and they're going, I think we need to take it in this direction. And then at the end of the day, the visionary has the picture of the end result. So visionary has a picture of end result, like we're going to become this. This is the picture of the end result. I'll use Starbucks again. The Starbucks vision was, we want to become the most recognizable brand on the face of the planet. That was their mission when they started. Not about selling coffee, not about anything else. That was the vision. Well, a director comes in and gives direction to that. Well, in order to do that, we've got to do this. And as trends change, we have to do it differently. They provide giving direction. The manager holds people accountable to the direction that they're given. Right? And then the coordinator houses priorities, and the doer does the work. Fair? Makes sense? How many of you in your job or in your business, you're doing all of these? Yeah, good luck with that. You see the challenge? And some of us, we're just great doers. I mean, an artist that gets taken to a position of managing artists often wants to just end it. Because at the end of the day, their gift is here. So at the end of the day, you got to know where you're at. What gives you joy? Some people love being the coach. They love being the manager. They love getting in someone's face and saying, why did you do it that way? Come on, you need to do it better. I believe in you. Get out there and do it the right way. Some people are wired that way. They love to be the coach. I hate being the coach. So here's the deal. What you end up having to do if you're an organization, you have to, in order for this thing to succeed, you've got to start pushing work down and getting other people to help you carry the load. And work should be done at the lowest level that it can be expected to be done right at. And sometimes when it isn't done right at that level, it's your fault. Because if you haven't trained that person, there's kind of an old saying that says if the tree isn't producing fruit, lop it off, right? Well, sometimes when the tree isn't producing fruit, you just need to give it some water, right? So I've been in a job before where I was lopped off before someone gave me water. I was like, I don't even know how to do my job. Of course you don't. Whoosh. And let's not be guilty of that. Sometimes if they're not producing fruit, if you got a doer that's not producing fruit, it's because you haven't. It's probably because you've been doing it a whole lot longer than they have, and you have trivialized the 15 years of experience you have and expected them in 15 months to be where you're at in 15 years. Well, they're not there. And if they were there, they'd start their own thing. So here's my challenge. Where in your business are you lacking? Are you lacking doers? Are you misprioritizing things? Because then you're not coordinating your work well. Do you have people holding people accountable? Because if you don't, you're missing a management layer. And guess what? If you're in a small business, you're going to have to do it all yourself until you can make the profitability to get other people to do it. Which means you've got to change your price to sell as if you had that person when you don't have that person, so you can work a double shift to do their job and your job, but because you're charging enough to actually have had that person in there, you only have to do it for a couple of months until you've got some payroll to start paying that person when they come. Does that make sense? I believe we're all, and I'll just, I'll draw this in a different color. Let's say we're all, do this little math equation. Let's say we're all worth, and this is probably not, I want to give you, let's all give ourselves the benefit of the doubt, but we're worth more than this. But let's just say we're all worth £1 million, okay? If I'm worth £1 million and you divide me or you, us individually by 0, what's that equal? Any math people in the room? What is it? It actually is undefined, right? Something like infinity. So in other words, if you are just by yourself doing nothing, God has made you infinitely valuable. But if you decide, you know what? I am going to put my efforts towards this one thing that I'm going to do, and you put focus to what you're going to do, and you do one thing, what are you worth? Full value. You're worth $1 million. But what if you're doing 10 things? What are you worth? Is anyone 100,000, right? Let me just say this. The more things that we do divides up our value. And sometimes we think, oh, I'll just do these 5 things. It'll all be okay. But let me tell you what, for each thing you add, not only is your value getting smaller, but you'll start to realize that you can't do all of them well anymore. And you'll start letting them suffer. And so you try and do all these things, and you'll realize, man, I can't get this done, or I can't get this done. Oh, man, what happens a lot of times in the small business, I'll tell you from my experience in the design business, in the creative services world, what happens is I started the business with tremendous vision. But I also started it with tremendous ignorance. Right? And so pretty soon I was doing all of this and none of this. Well, I did all of this and none of this for 5 years. Well, guess what happens in the creative services world when you have your head down for 5 years? You're 5 years behind everybody. So when I finally looked up and saw what everyone else was doing, I'm like, oh my gosh, my designs look like they're a decade old. And the same thing is bound to happen to your organization if you don't have time built into your life where you can kick your feet up and stare out the window and go, what am I going to do next? In order to be healthy, you've got to have all of this at work inside of your business. And if you want to be able to do this more and do this less, you're going to have to start charging for it now and building value for it now. And the big thing is you got to start training for it now too. That's the big thing. That's what beats us up. We always have this theory, and I was in Matt's garden this morning. Well, not really in your garden. I was clipping my fingernails in your back patio because they're recyclable. And And I was looking, and I looked down, and you have this garden, and it reminded me from the book First Things First by Stephen Covey. And he says, he told the story about this landscape architect that had come out for this famous sales guy who makes all this money. And the sales guy said, look, I'm only home about once every 3 weeks, so I want you to build me the kind of garden that just always looks good, and I don't really have to keep it up. And the landscape architect looked at him and said, sir, where there is no gardener, there is no garden. And that's another one of our delusions as a small business. We think to ourselves, you know what, all the work is building it. Oh my gosh, you're so wrong. I was so wrong. I got to the end of the day, I'm like, look at what. No, it's maintaining it. It is much harder to maintain the thing than it is to build the thing. Any chump can get up and build a business, but to maintain that thing, that's where the real work is at. That takes great management and great direction and long-term vision. Okay, here's another delusion that I've had as a small business person. Once I get it working, I'll take care of myself. Once I get it working, I'll take care of myself. That's a total delusion. Once I get it working, I'll take care of myself. You know, there's a reason that the stewardess on the airline, you know, when you're flying, gets on to the PA system and says, in the event of decompression, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Talk down lightly, right? And if you're traveling with an infant, put the mask over yourself first, because if you try to put it over them first, you could actually die, and you both die trying. And here's the deal: you got to put the mask over you. You're no good to your client if you don't put the mask over you. You're not good to your family if you don't put the mask over you. If you think, no, I'm going to work really hard and then one day I'm going to put the mask over me, it's a delusion. That day's never coming. And if you don't take care of yourself now, spiritually, emotionally, physically, if you don't take care of yourself now, you're going to work yourself down to a pulp. My wife and I work together. Could someone pray for us? No, I'm serious. We work together, but you know what? But part of it is we set boundaries for our lives. It was what happened really early in the game. We were like, this is not working. We want to kill each other, you know? And so we set boundaries for life. We don't talk about work outside of work at all. It's so funny. Our staff, we got about 15 staff members. We'll get, our staff will go, tell me something, and then the next day go, okay, well, where's Michelle? Didn't she know the meeting was today? I'm like, why? Well, I told you the meeting was yesterday. I'm like, I'm sorry, but if you didn't tell Michelle, she's not coming. Because I don't talk to my wife about work at home. And I don't. If we want to go talk about work outside of work hours, we'll go have dinner somewhere, but we don't talk about it at home. Why? Because we'd kill each other. Sometimes you just got to, what is that? That's our attempt. You got to put rules in place to take care of yourself. Fair? Okay. All right. Next, finishing. Here's a fun one. Finishing my reactive tasks will give me time to be proactive. It's delusional. Trust me, I deal with this all the time. It's one of my biggest weaknesses, because I'm like, I'll do it. Move, you know. Give me a couple examples of reactive tasks.
Random email requests.
Client sends an email, right? Client makes a phone call, right? Oh, we just realized that we didn't have everything prepared for this job. You need to go leave everything you're doing to go get it done, right? All these things are reactive.